What's up, heathens? How y'all doing? Today we're going to be talking with Matt Powell. He's the preacher that kind of likes video games, but then again, he kind of doesn't like video games. And I don't know, he's kind of made the news lately and whatnot. So we're going to be talking with him today. So if you want to hear this conversation, please stay tuned. All right, so hi, Matt, welcome. I'm so glad that you were able to make it on the show today. Let's start off with, kind of your background. Tell us, where did you come up at? How did religion play, a factor in your life before, you kind of got national media attention?
Sure, no problem. So, hi, everybody. My name's Matt Powell. And John, thank you for having me on. I grew up in a Christian home. I was homeschooled my entire life up until college. And I didn't really have a belief in God up until I was about at age 11. And I understand at that time I was a pretty young kid. But there was a group of kids at the church who just decided they didn't believe and they were there for the candy and the good times. So I figured I was one of them. But it wasn't until I studied logic and studied science and so forth that I came to a belief in God. And then shortly after that, to faith in Jesus Christ. And from that point on, I played a lot of sports, did a lot of basketball. I had a basketball scholarship, played in college, and I decided to drop out. I'm still finishing online in my senior year now, but I decided to drop out due to the fact that I couldn't really take as much time as I'd like to, talking to people about Christ and getting the gospel out there. And so that's really my mission. And obviously, the rant, I put out a rant, John, and I had no idea this thing was going to get any sort of publicity. I just put it on my channel. I thought, you know what, only Christians are going to see this. But it turned out Hemet Mata, I believe his name is, saw it, and he wrote a little blog about it, and that's where it kind of blew up. But the title of the video was 22-year-old Preacher Rants Against Atheism. And, there was just a certain point in my message where I felt very passionate about how I felt about certain atheists that I've run into. So that's kind of where I'm coming from.
Oh, okay. So would you consider yourself to be an atheist before age 11, or were you more, I guess, secular in mind?
I was definitely atheistic. I didn't believe in any sort of deity whatsoever. I was just very childish, and I didn't have any faith in any sort of God.
Well, I mean, I would say that, just because you don't believe in God doesn't mean that you're childish or anything like that. I mean, I don't raise my son with, like as an atheist or anything. I just don't bring God up. So I don't think it's a childish thing. But I can understand how you might view yourself as being childish at that point. Were your parents like religious? I can't remember if you said yes or no.
Absolutely. My dad, he's a creation science evangelist. He travels and speaks. He's good friends with Kent Hovind. I'm also good friends with Kent Hovind. And so that's kind of where we come from, I guess.
Okay. Now, since you mentioned Kent Hovind, do you also know Steven Anderson, or do you just
Yes.
know him like on the internet?
Yeah, I'm a part of his movement, part of Pastor Steven Anderson's movement. I'm one of his preachers, I guess you could say. I get lumped in with him a lot, so I figured, you know what, I guess I'm part of the movement, and they've kind of taken me in.
Okay, so would it be safe to say that you subscribe to everything that he preaches?
I would say nearly everything. I mean, there's going to be minor things, very, very minor things that we would probably disagree on, but as overall, probably 99%, absolutely. Very fundamentally, yes, absolutely.
Okay. Well, like I know a few years ago, he espoused the whole idea that the way to cure AIDS is by killing homosexuals. Do you agree with that?
Well, I think homosexuality is absolutely disgusting. And, the Bible says in Leviticus 20:13, if a man lie with mankind as he lieth with a woman, they have committed abomination. They shall surely be put to death. So obviously, I do believe there is a death penalty. I think it's disgusting. And I understand that science has come up with ways to prevent people from having AIDS, obviously, if they're doing it protected. Obviously, they can go that route. But I think homosexuality itself is just absolutely disgusting.
Okay. So that was kind of a roundabout answer. Should I take that as a no? I don't think that killing homosexuals will cure the AIDS epidemic.
I do believe it would. But again, that's not really the reason why I think they should be put to death. Obviously, the Bible says that, they should be put to death because God said they should be put to death. So I believe the Bible on that.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, I understand that, but I'm fairly certain that you probably don't, subscribe to like honor killings. I mean, do you think honor killings are a good idea?
What do you mean by honor killings? Like just going around shooting up the place?
Well, no. That's not what that's not what an honor killing is. Like, let's say somebody. I don't know if you have brothers or sisters, but let's say somebody kills your brother, whether on purpose or accident. Then you go and you take you avenge their death by killing the person that killed them, regardless of the reasoning behind or the context of the incident.
Oh, I believe it definitely depends on the incident. For me personally, John, I'm not a violent person. I would never want to kill anybody. And even the thought of a homosexual dying to me is just sad. Like, I wouldn't enjoy something like that. And I wouldn't enjoy a murderer being put to death or even a pedophile. But there is a time, the Bible says, to hate and so forth. So I do believe that there, under certain circumstances, are places where people should be put to death, not by me, not by any one of us. Obviously it's not my job or the job of anybody to take the government into their own hands. Obviously the government's job is to execute criminals. And if somebody murders somebody, of course they should be put to death, but it depends on the circumstance. If it's an accident, it's an accident. We have lie detector tests today. We have all that type of technology. So it's pretty easy to tell, in my humble opinion, what the situation is.
Okay, well, I mean, that's not what the Bible says, but I mean, I can understand your logic there. I don't know if you've heard of this whole concept of was it the
Eye
Avenger
for an
of
eye.
Blood?
Yeah. Eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth.
Well, no. It's not eye for an eye or tooth for a tooth. It's part of the same, set of laws in which you would kill a homosexual for. It says that regardless of context, if somebody kills another person, the closest kin to that person can kill that person regardless of context. There are some stipulations as to what can protect that person if it is an accidental killing, but basically you have free range to go and kill that person if they are outside of those circumstances. So I ask again, are you okay with honor killings? Because that's exactly what the Bible puts forth. It's the same content, or it's the same kind of thing that happens with Islam and some other religions, this whole idea of honor killing. So I'm wondering, do you subscribe to the Bible?
As far as a court being there, sure, absolutely. The court would
No,
definitely
this.
have to make the decision. And at that time, there was a Sanhedrin and there was a court that would make the decision. Obviously, the book of First and Second Judges is all about that, how these guys would make the decision. That's why the Bible says, that out of the mouth of two or three witnesses, let every word be established.
Well, no, that's true, and that has its own problems in and of itself as far as like proving that something happened or whatnot goes. But that's not what I'm talking about. This is law laid down in the Bible. It says not concerning the Sanhedrin or any kind of body. It's just the next of kin can legally kill that person without repercussion at all from any governing body or authority. So if someone were to accidentally kill your brother or sister or mother or whatever, would you agree with like yourself or somebody else going and killing that person because the Bible says that you personally can do that?
Yeah, honestly, I don't. I personally would not do that. No.
Okay. All right. So let's get back to the homosexuality deal. Now, I can understand how sucking dick might be a little bit disgusting for somebody. I mean, me myself, I don't like to suck dick, but I don't really chastise people for liking to suck dick. I mean, honestly, sucking dick isn't a homosexual thing, so I'm just kind of curious, like, I mean, is that sodomy, like anything other than missionary, or do you have like some kind of, do you have like a looser definition of what sodomy is?
Oh, I've heard about the different definitions of sodomy. Is it anal or is it whatever? To be honest, sodomy to me, obviously that is just whenever a man is having any sort of sexual relationship with another man. To me, that's sodomy. That's what I would consider to be sodomy. That's what the Bible says. And there's a reason why the city of Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed. These cities is because obviously the Bible says all the men of the city, old and young, surrounded these guys. So these young guys, I mean, young people don't tend to have a tendency to become or to be homos. They have to be recruited, and I've seen that. Yeah, I have seen that. And there's videos out online. Anybody can Google this stuff. There was a man who went to a gay nightclub, and he disguised himself as being homosexual. And he asked these guys, he says, "Hey, how many kids have you guys? How many people have you guys raped?" And they're just going on about how many kids they've made out with and raped. And one guy said, "Yeah, if I said how young the kid was when I did it, I'd go to jail." So there's I mean, that's why I believe that all homosexuals are pedophiles. Obviously, John, there are people that I believe are confused. You know what? God bless those people. I hope they get well. I hope they figure themselves out. But when I see a man that's willing to have sex with another man and hitting up on other men, saying, "Hey, you need to go to bed with me." The thing is, I think that's gross. And the Bible says it's filthy and it's disgusting. And the Bible not only puts a death penalty on it, but it also makes it clear that these guys, if a man, just common sense, if a man's willing to have sex with another man, he would have sex with anything.
I sincerely disagree with everything that you just said. I really don't like when you describe these videos online of like homosexuals talking about, oh yeah, I raped this kid the other day. It sounds to me like, I don't know, like a Christian propaganda video that was put on and has the worst acting in it of all time. So you'll understand my skepticism when you tell me that there's these videos online where a guy dresses as a homosexual going inside and talking to these people. I mean, I would have to see it, but also it would be better to have, like, I don't know, statistics or something, like evidence, not just anecdotal stories and a possibly faked video. I mean, you can understand my skepticism on that, right?
Of course, and in fact, I'm very skeptical myself. It's a part of my job or my occupation. I work with a lot of security. I'm a computer guy, and to be honest, you have to be skeptical of everything. But when it's a consistent, when it's literally consistent, it's happening all the time. With these homosexuals, and I mean, you can go to any one of these videos online. It's not like just one video; it's hundreds and hundreds. And people don't necessarily talk about this stuff because it's not a popular thing, and it's not something that I enjoy talking about. And I think it's terrible. Um, but that's where I'm coming from.
Okay. Could you quickly, just off the top of your head, define sodomy for me?
I would say sodomy is anything to do, obviously not within regular marriage. When I define sodomy, I say, hey, the Bible says that these guys are sodomites, they're dogs. In other words, a man having sex with another man, I would consider to be sodomy. I believe the Bible says it is. So,
Okay. Well, I mean, that's not really the definition of sodomy. If I can read the definition, which I know that you're working off a very specific definition, but that's a fallacy in and of itself. But sodomy is just sexual intercourse involving anal or oral copulation. So basically, if I was to fuck KC like in the ass or something, that would be technically sodomy. So it doesn't matter whether or not it is, whether we're married or what, it would be sodomy. And I feel like you're using a very specific definition in order to support your case.
well, I'm just using the biblical definition. There's a difference between the biblical definition and the 2018 American definition.
Uh, okay, I could buy that, but I mean, in the Bible, it's kind of vague as far as in like Sodom and Gomorrah, because I've heard your particular argument about Sodom and Gomorrah, but there's also the fact that like God didn't smite that area or didn't make the decision or whatnot because they were trying to fuck the angels. He made the decision because there was nobody but Lot that was welcoming. And so basically, before Abraham had talked to God and basically bargained with him, Jewed him, if you will, all the way down to if there's what, like 5 or 10 good people in the city, he would save it. And God just couldn't find those good people, not because they wanted to fuck other guys, but just because they weren't welcoming. So I'm kind of curious, what do you say to that particular apologetic?
Well, I would say the Bible is pretty clear on it. I mean, obviously, the Bible says old and young, all the men around the city came for these guys. And obviously, these younger people had to have been recruited. I don't see younger kids typically going around and saying, "Hey, I'm an open homo." I enjoy. If I'm driving down the road, and I see some guy in his underwear, I'm not going to be like, "Oh man, I don't want to look at this." But if I'm going down the road and I see some bikini babe on the side of the road, obviously my flesh is inclined to look at that. because I'm a man. The Bible says there is no temptation taken you but such as is common to man. So of course these people in Sodom and Gomorrah were reprobates. They were filthy.
Well, okay.
I don't
So
know if
just
that
to make
answers
it,
your question. I'm sorry.
well, no, that's fine. Just to make something clear as far as my channel goes, I don't find homosexuals disgusting. They won't fuck anything like you say, and they also are not pedophiles. That's not to say that homosexuals can't be pedophiles. I'm saying that in the generalizing manner that you're talking about, homosexuals are not the same as pedophiles, and it's not like a one-to-one thing. Homosexual does not mean pedophile. I get that with your apologetic, you want to go there, and I've heard like Steven Anderson, Jimenez, and Donnie Regan, I believe is his name. Or Romero, sorry, Donnie Romero. I've heard all of their apologetics about it, and it's really bad. And it's kind of surprising because you say that, you woke up and found logic and science when you were 11 and decided to believe in God, but yet you make the worst logical arguments ever. Like they're just fallacious all over. I mean, you can see how not every pedophile or not every homosexual is a pedophile, and that's logically fallacious, right?
Well, I think we fundamentally disagree on the issue. I believe that any open homo is a pedophile, because if a man's willing to have sex with something as disgusting as another man, obviously they're going to feel like they can have sex with anything. I just personally, this is me personally, just even outside the Bible, if you want to go there, I look at another man, I don't want anything to do sexually with another man. It's not how I was designed. And, I don't believe it's natural to be a homo at all. I think it's just something that happens to people. And, obviously the Bible says God gives people up to a reprobate mind. But when you talk about, hey, you're claiming to be logical. Well, obviously this is not a pleasant subject. God is a God of love, but he's also a God of hate. And there is passages in the Bible where God talks about hating people. But when I talk about logic, I'm talking about the whole God thing, which blows my mind as to why somebody can't believe in a deity.
Come to the dark side.